Welcome to One EXP CultureCast, the official podcast of eXp Realty's primary diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative, One EXP. I'm your host and the leader of eXp's DEI efforts, Cody Gilkeson. Here, we explore the unique stories, challenges, and triumphs of individuals who are shaping the culture of eXp Realty. Each episode, we'll connect with inspiring guests who share their personal journeys and insights, giving us a window into their experiences and the impact they're making. Together, we'll celebrate the diverse voices that make up the cultural fabric of eXp. Together, we'll learn as stories of growth and resilience take center stage. This is One EXP CultureCast, the bi-weekly podcast about what makes us us. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode. We are on season 3, episode 4 of the CultureCast. This is episode number 43, if you're counting of this show.
Wow.
A few of these. I'm really thrilled to have one of my favorite influencers from eXp on, Miss Lauren Hilliard Ray. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Cody. I love this. And what a beautiful day here in Dallas, and to be able to have the opportunity to converse with you today and just go really deep into it. Thanks for having me.
I love it. So glad you're here. Can you want to give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So obviously my name is Lauren Hilliard Ray. I run a wife and husband team. I like to say that versus a husband and wife team here in Dallas, Fort Worth. I've been with eXp almost 3.5 years and ultimately just changed my life. And I'm a 9th generation Texan, 35 years old, pregnant with my first child. Have a lot of hobbies and stuff like that, but real estate is my absolute passion, and just building community around my life and in business. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. 9th generation Texan.
I know.
Wow. Is that something that's just passed down knowledge from the family, or did you dig into it?
Yeah, that's something that's written in the wills, when somebody dies, they're like, okay, well, this is something that you have to say for the rest of your life. But yeah, when I say that my family came to Texas in a covered wagon, I'm not freaking kidding you. So it's just in my blood. And that's what I tell my clients. We specialize in a lot of relocations. And so I tell them, I'm like, I'm a 9th generation Texan. Nobody knows this state more than me and my blood. And it's just something that comes really naturally to me, and absolutely love being a Texan.
That's beautiful. Do you feel knowing the lay of the land that well really gives you an advantage as a seller of real estate?
Yes. And
helping families find the right place for them, because the area.
100%. And we come a lot from East Texas, and I was born and raised in Dallas, and now my husband and I live in Fort Worth. And so when people relocate here, I went to school in Lubbock. That's where Spencer and I met at Texas Tech. I went to university in San Antonio too. And so I kind of covered the entire state. And when people relocate here, I just make it very adamantly known that we'll cover you wherever you want to go, or connect you with a partner agent of ours, but we'll cover good, bad, and ugly. It's about what they want for their family and the kind of terrain and community and area that they want, and I find it advantageous to be able to kind of pinpoint, well, you might be really good in East Texas, or in Dallas proper, or down closer to Austin, or West Texas. And so analyzing all those different propositions.
That's awesome. And I mean, it's such an advantage of having a larger team and access to the resources that eXp affords you. You really legitimately could do a referral to anywhere if you needed to, especially the breadth and width of the Young Professionals Network to draw on is beautiful. Now, you mentioned Lubbock, Texas. So you're from the same stomping grounds as one of my favorite bands of all time, the Chicks.
Oh my gosh, yes, there you go. Yeah, we only have a few things out in Lubbock, and it's really Texas Tech, a lot of partying, them, and then maybe a few other bands that nobody's ever heard of and stuff. But yeah, man, it was a really great time, and I loved it out there. I wanted to still be in Texas to go to school, but close enough away to where my parents couldn't hop in the car and just make an easy drive to show up at my front door,
Yeah, that's lovely. When Lee and I moved out here to Illinois, we were in Syracuse, New York for 10 years. Yeah. And we came here to Illinois with the sole purpose of being closer to his family. And
his mom and dad are 40 minutes that way, and his brother and sister are 40 minutes that way. So we're right in the middle with
exactly close enough for emergencies and parties and things like that, but not too close to where you could just like go and knock on their door in the middle of the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's too close. If we were right around the street, they'd never not be here.
Yeah, amen. That's hilarious.
Oh gosh. So it's a real honor to have you here on the CultureCast. I'm so glad to have you. Right. I feel like I'm having you right at a zenith of your career, right? Like everything is coming up roses for Lauren this year.
Yeah.
You've got the award wins, the vice chair role at Win. You're still killing it over in YP. The baby is on the way. Like life is big right now. How is managing all of that at the same time been on you mentally?
Man, I tell you, I think it's because, and I kid you not, when my parents were first found out they were pregnant with me, my dad was adamant. So my last name is Hilliard, and my dad was adamant. He wanted to name me Hillary Hilliard, and he wanted me to be a news reporter. That was his big dream. And I'm like, doesn't it make sense?
In my head, this is not a rough leap. Change the name, put you on the news. I could see it.
Like, doesn't it make sense? And I'm like, and I went through my entire life, and I'm like, I could have been Hillary Hilliard. And he's like, Hillary Hilliard reporting live. And I don't know what it was, Cody. I'm not sure if you saw, but even all of last week, I was in Miami, Florida, speaking at Gold Bar Live. And it's something that obviously I travel nationwide for now. I never thought that something that was so ingrained in my parents and their thinking and their perception of who I was going to be would actually come to fruition. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting now, after last week in Miami, when I was moderating a panel with powerhouse women, multi-billion-dollar producers, consistently selling 20, 40, 60, $100 million homes. And it was such a surreal moment for me. I got done, and my husband and I were sitting on the balcony of our Airbnb, and I just got so emotional because when I spoke at EXPCon in Miami in October, it was a very surreal moment for me. And it's kind of like something went off in my head, and I was like, is this my purpose? Not to have a microphone, not to necessarily be in front of people in public speaking, but is it my purpose to be able to give back and build community and show people a more natural and attainable way to achieve their goals?
Yeah.
And it was something that now that I manage a very successful real estate business, my husband and I will close out Q1 with doing over half the production we did all of last year. Mm-hmm. And now I'm over 6 months pregnant. We have signed over 80 agent-to-agent referrals in the past 12 months. Wow. That's a huge root of our business as well. Yeah. The magnitude of it, I think when I feel very purposeful, is what is allowing this to be more simple, because even people ask me in Miami and ask me consistently, they're like, how are you doing this? And I say, I just feel it in my blood. I feel it in my bones. I feel like this is something that I'm destined to do. I've been called by numerous people a serial connector, which I'm happy they finished that sentence with connector and not something else. But I've been called a serial connector, and I really live by that because I want people to identify what they want in life and how can I bridge this gap in order to get them from point A to point B, and maybe not do all of the work in between. So it's just something that's in my soul, I feel like, and that's why I kind of fairly simply.
That I can attest to that connector bit, because we work virtually, but when we're at cons together, I'm watching. People see that I'm always busy at EXPCon, but I'm watching people. You get a good feel for how people work if you're just watching them at the con, right?
Exactly.
I have seen somebody's having a conversation. You maybe have never met them, and I see you, take them to somebody else that can help them with their career. You're connecting the dots for people. I see it. When we talk about that EXPCon story, I just gotta I mentioned earlier you were a winner of a 1EXP award this past year, that Heart and Hustle Award. And
she's right here.
Oh,
look, I'm gonna grab it. I'm so proud. This is gonna go in my will to my children one day.
I love it. I'm so happy you were able to win that like that. Listen, when the win session at the 1EXP Lounge, for those who wasn't there, I'm going to paint the picture for you a little bit. So all of those sessions were meticulously planned down to the minute, with the exception of Wynn, who said, we got a lot going on, we're going to wing it. To me, who's analytical and ADHD, it was like,
yes,
what is going to happen? And then we get there, and there comes to a point in that discussion with all those massive amounts of people, the 200 or so people there, where there was a lull. And Lauren grabbed a mic and started going around and talking to people and asking them these questions that none of us would have thought of. And I remember Jill and I looked at each other, and Betsy and I looked at each other, and Jessica and I looked at each other, and a few of us were looking like, we're watching A Star Is Born.
What happened to you?
Did she know that she was Oprah in secret? Did she know this? Like, had you ever had a moment like that before, where it was like, some time's got to be filled and I'm going to fill it and I know exactly how to do it?
No, that came from a higher power. I don't know where that came from. Okay. Like,
yeah, we felt that.
I don't thrive in awkward silence. That's my thing. Now I thrive in purposeful silence, but awkward silence like that, like you, like I'm a planner, I'm an organizer. And when things like, I don't know, when people are watching, I really want to bridge that gap and just make it more exciting and fun. But it's also people's time. Like they're there for a purpose and they're there for a reason. And so like, let's provide some freaking excitement, and with all of our resource groups, very designated, very planned out, very organized. And with Women's Impact Network being so new, we had a lot of stuff to cover, but just didn't know how to necessarily execute that in that moment.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it was a lesson learned for me that I'm willing to share with everybody. When Wynn said we don't really have a plan, I should have remembered that the people at Wynn who are going to be doing this are 10 to 12 women who were the best of the best that we picked from a group of like 600 applications. Right. Like, I should not have been worried when that group of people, one of you would have stepped up and filled the silence. And to me, the most impactful part of the whole session is when what was thought about was done, and we got to the section where you had your Oprah moment and went around and talked to people. Everybody was engaged. We learned some genuinely interesting stuff from the people you talked to. I still think about that. And that's something that, like, I just, from my perspective, I've seen a lot of people try to do what you did at EXPCon, and what you have is a gift from above. Seriously.
Thank you. Yeah. There's just so many people there that aren't comfortable behind a camera, or aren't comfortable with a mic in their hand, or aren't comfortable speaking up. And when I do a lot of these events, whether virtually or in person, people will come to me and say, oh, I didn't feel like raising my hand. I kind of wanted to talk to you off stage or in private. And I used to be like that. So I'm going to be very brutally honest right now. When I was at my previous brokerage, I was part of a team that they did not want me to go do events. I was not allowed to go do the events. I wasn't allowed to travel to the events. But I specifically
I've never heard the word not allowed for a realtor. You do whatever the heck you want. You're the entrepreneur.
Know. Well, this was a very different, it's a very high production team, great people. But overall, where there's so many discriminations in life, right? Age, look, religion, background, all of these different things. And they did not want me to do this because they thought for sure I would not be taken seriously. And I was there religiously and loyally on this team specifically for 3.5 years. And I think that I was so limited in my abilities because they were like, you focus strictly on production. You don't do anything else. It is production, production, production. You don't go have fun. You don't go sponsor events. You don't go do all of this stuff.
Yeah, we see that in the industry quite a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, it was a creative outlet that I could utilize. So when I got over to EXP, I saw 20 different avenues, and they were like, you can pick one or more. You can be in production. You can do agent attraction. You can go do these events or sponsorships or whatever you want to do, build community and however and whichever facet that you see necessary. And I think that's when I joined in December of 2021, and I use this term a lot, but that's when like I feel like the universe put like a steroid shot in me, and it was like, go, go, go. Like, you can do this. So once I got to a comfortability level of my production, I was like, okay, well, now I can focus on this too. And plus my husband being in the industry, I'm like, he has the best boss ever. I'm also HR. I'm everything. And so coaching him and getting him to a level to where I was 4 years in, and he's not even 2 years in, has opened up a lot of doorways and a lot of freedom for me. But thank you for saying that. I appreciate that, because it wasn't something that necessarily came naturally to me. I think I kind of just fell into it. And like I told that story of Lauren Hilliard reporting live, I think it kind of just like coincided with that in my life, and it just made sense.
I mean, it worked. I mean, I can't think of a more relevant example of someone discovering they have a superpower in real time. You know, it was like, we need some time filled, and you suddenly started shooting webs out of your wrist. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean?
Thank you. I mean, and even like after Miami, this was a very huge event for me to do last week. And I know you've heard me say this before, but I speak a lot to the people that I mentor and my colleagues about this why me versus why not me mentality. And I used to be the why me. Why would a multi-million-dollar client pick me? Why would they choose me to speak on stage? Why would they want me? And it was like that switch went off, and I said, why not me? If somebody else is going to get it, why can't it not be me? And it just tied everything together. And Miami last week was, like I said, such a surreal moment for me that afterwards, I had so many people coming up to me asking me if I was professionally trained on moderating. And like Juan Carlos and Cyrus, they both asked me, and they were like, have you done this professionally? And I said, no. And people were just like, well, how does this come so naturally? And I don't know what to say. I'm like, I don't know, but I picture myself, and I am the person that when I'm in those instances, I'm asking questions that I want to know the answers to too. I'm not here to like sugarcoat everything and make it rainbows and unicorns. Like, let's get down to the nitty gritty and find out the real answers and knowledge to help propel all of us together. That's
one of my secret tricks that I hold in my back pocket that I don't tell people when they ask about how I do CultureCast. Most of CultureCast is me asking questions that I want to know the answer to.
Right. See?
Yeah. we described the beginning of this podcast as, I'm going to go on a learning journey because this is my first job in the real estate business. I've done DEI stuff elsewhere. I've never been a realtor or anything like that. So this is my learning journey, and people are invited along for the ride. And that's what made it successful. That's why we're on episode 43. Because people will agree with us. Yeah, it's great. And, you know, you do have a lot of stuff that comes naturally, but that's not to discount that you are somebody who puts in the work, right?
Thank you.
I think with a lot of the stuff like the public speaking and all that, there's other work that you're doing in your life that's preparing you for this without you knowing it. Right. And we never know what that is. And talking about that, you have this mantra that I've heard from you: if you do the work, it'll work. Right. Where did that mindset come from?
The team that I was talking about before, the owner of the team would consistently say, we've got a really low bar of entry in real estate. And that's common knowledge. Anybody can get their license online. I mean, there's certain things that you can't have on your background, but I mean, more or less, it's really low bar of entry. But he said, if you do the work, it will work. And it's something that's stuck with me forever because there's other people out there that are doing the same amount of work that I am. So how am I going to differentiate myself and my business and my brand and my value from these other people? And you know me, I'm a collaboration over competition type of gal, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I do thrive on competition. And when I think about like doing the work, so many people right now, I read a article that was posted by Kenny Fast, fabulous EXP agent, you know, multi-billion-dollar producing team. From, I believe it was Mega Camp for Keller Williams, like just a few weeks ago or a few months ago, and said like over 60% of agents right now, their boats are out in the water, just waiting for them to get filled up and come back in. But the tide, a lot of times, will never come back in for them. And it's people that are doing the work on the shore, not waiting for things to happen and not waiting for clients to come to them and all of these things. Like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to hunt for it, I'm going to go get it. And that's how I take territory. And I think that's honestly a much easier way of doing things because, Cody, I don't want to be retiring at 70 years old.
No.
I don't want to be working forever. I want to build a different life for myself and my family generationally, but also set expectations for my children and my grandchildren and so on and so forth, to say, wow, she really did it because she worked with purpose and she actually did the work and didn't wait for somebody to come knock on the door. She didn't wait for her phone to ring. She always made the first call. She always knocked on the door first. She always went out and did it and got it, no matter however that happened. And so I think that's why that's something that's so ingrained in me, is that we've got all these levels of work that people do in real estate, whether it's lead generation or converting sales or however you get this business to come to you. But something I consistently say is, if you're not hunting to go get it, then you're the prey. You're the people that are going to be pushed out of the business and somebody's going to take your spot. Mm-hmm. Like in Dallas, Fort Worth, we've got over 31,000 licensed agents. Woo. And 31,000 agents on average in 2023, we had over 500 people moving to Texas per day, with the majority of them coming to Dallas, Fort Worth. And if you think about the sheer amount of competition that provides, it's substantial. And I want to be very purposeful and tactical on how I go get this business. And so it's just about busting your butt, finding new ways to do things. If something doesn't work, then you figure out another way. But it's like R&D everything. You can rip off and duplicate anything for me. And I tell people that all the time. You want my presentations, you want my scripts, you want my intake and outtake forms. You can't have my TC. But other than that, like, anything is yours for the taking. And that's how I think like this should be. Because, in Dallas or wherever, whatever market you're in, it's like people that have been in the industry for 30, 40, 50 years. And I'm like, okay, Spencer took a call yesterday. He's going to show $1.6 million ranch properties in Texas today. And the agent asked him yesterday, when he was discussing offer terms and why this property's been on the market for almost 400 days. He goes, how long have you even been in real estate? Have you sold a home yet? To Spencer. And Spencer's like, oh yeah, you want to talk about production? Let's go. And it's the persona like that I really want to change, at least my community in real estate, to say, like, we can work it, we can do it, we can go get it, because there's a lot of money out there to be made, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, and there's some level of, we can't really affect the way that a client is going to speak to us or treat us or whatever, but the training behind Spencer knowing the right answer for that and how to handle that that's everything, right? Exactly. Yeah, I love that. So I did a little dig into your LinkedIn profile, and I see that you have a background in like school psychology before moving over to real estate. What was that pivot like? What inspired that shift?
So I had wanted to be in major business and entrepreneurship my entire school career. That's something, some people are going to laugh at this because they know it's true, but I don't thrive with authority, right? That's why I became a realtor, and that's why I run my own team. Like, authority is not really my jam. But my mother was the one who really taught me how to understand the inner workings of a human being. And being in doing psychology and all of these different operations, it allowed me to dig even deeper into personalities and who I'm doing business with, but overall where I am now, building these communities and building these pathways for people to find that they might not be able to identify themselves. And so to me, it was a seamless transition. It was something that made sense. Now everybody does like the personality tests and disc profiles and the Enneagrams and things like that. But for me, I was thinking, because of my mother, how can I understand the inner workings of a human being? Because, and I'm happy to say this, a lot of people like me, a lot of people don't. This is how the human race works, is that not one person is accepted by every single person. But if we can work to understand where the differentiations are, where this, the similar items are, just as negotiations, you know what I mean? It's like you come to a meeting ground and a common point eventually to where it can be a healthy working relationship. But yeah, that's why I did a lot of that in school, and then ultimately transitioned to major business and entrepreneurship, because I just felt like even in college and in high school, I just felt like there was a bigger purpose for me to not necessarily always be working a 9 to 5 or be working until, like, my dad's 72 right now, and he works because he wants to, but he works 2 jobs, and I don't want that for me. And it's something that you have to find a place in life to pull the trigger, pull the e-brake, and just say, I want something different. And how am I going to get there? And figure out the people that can get me there. One of my favorite books, it's probably out there because Spencer's reading it right now, was given to me by another EXP agent called The Power of Who. And this book taught me and gave me insight to how one single person can open up all of these pathways and doorways in your life. You just have to find these people. So that's kind of how I've lived, being 35 now compared to college. That's how I've really just worked purposefully to build my life and my business. And so that way I can be that serial connector. You know what I mean?
Beautiful. I love that. I mean, you can see a lot of psychology in the work that you do today. So there's a lot there. I love it. It makes me think, you talk about not wanting to retire in your 70s. Well, if you're able to close the book and say, I've made enough, I'm ready to retire, what happens then for Lauren?
Family and generational wealth. It's strictly going to be, for me, and I tell people this, and it's freaking hilarious, but I'm like, I want to be partying on a yacht in the Mediterranean when I'm like in my 60s and 70s. I want to be traveling the freaking world with a lot of money, looking great, feeling great, have a healthy family, a purpose in life. And I wasn't made to live in Dallas, Fort Worth my entire life. Like, my husband and I live in Mexico part of the year. And it's just something like I'm destined to do. So how am I going to get there? But I picture myself as just a hot, wealthy grandma that's on a yacht somewhere, just going wherever the heck I want to, because I've got nothing to worry about, and I can invite my family and friends to come visit me wherever I am.
That's beautiful. I love that. The idea of being like Helen Mirren out here in my 70s in a bikini, and everybody's like,
100%. That's what I want, Cody. I want more purpose than that. Everybody's going to be like, oh, how superficial. But, the superficiality will come in congruence with everything else that I want. So that's just how it's going to work.
It's also a measure of, what do I want to do to relax and make me happy? And that's, people can judge that all they want to. You've got your yacht in the Mediterranean. For me, it's a library of video games that I can sit at home and not be bothered by anyone. That's my dream.
See, I love it. And you can come visit me anytime. And when you need a player too, you've got me on deck. Like, we'll just dominate.
I'll be on the yacht playing my handheld, playing my Switch.
No, by then they'll have, like, you can hit a button on your head and just play right in front of you. Hilarious.
I love that. So Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you started your real estate career around 2016, yeah?
Yes.
Um, what are some of that's a pretty long career. We're going on a decade now. What do you
Right.
think are some of the biggest lessons that you learned either early on or anywhere in your career that were like, oh, that changes everything?
Speed to lead. That was the number one thing in my life, and that I've really ingrained in my husband too, is speed to lead. And that could be conversations with lead generation, with another agent that calls you, with a client. Speed always wins. And
Mm.
the thing is that I know everybody talks about the Harvard Business Reviews and the MIT school studies that say, your conversion rate drops by 95% or between 80 and 95% if you don't respond in the first 5 minutes. Well, now that's like how we live our lives. It's calling family back. It's calling other appointments. It's calling everything in life back and in business. But speed to lead, number one, is what set me apart when I started when I was 26 or 27 in real estate. And that became such an intuitive matter in my life that I was like, okay, if you've got 80 different people calling, and that's how we've signed so many of these agent to agent referrals in the past 12 months, is we're the first to call, we're the first to comment, we're the first to send them all of our information. And with speed to lead in life, it's you don't always have to know what to say up front, but you might as well be the first person on the phone. You might as well be the first person to respond, because if not, somebody else is going to do it. And so that's, again, it ties into that territory taking mentality. It's like, I want this for my life. I want to be where I am when I'm a grandma. But I'm like, how do I get there? And that's something that was just very simple to me to understand and to integrate, to where I was like, okay, speed to lead is how everything operates. And I want to be first. It's Talladega Nights,
That's what I was thinking, yeah. You're not last.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I want. And so that's something that's very attainable for me to understand, and what I teach a lot of the people that I mentor. But my husband now, beast mode. And I kid you not, the first ultrasound that I had with this baby, got a referral call, and I answered the call when I was having my very first ultrasound done. And people think I'm crazy, but I'm like, look, would you do it? Like to build a different business and to build a different persona, because my child's going to know, like, dang, mom's a hustler. Like mom and dad are doing it. They're not just saying they do all of these things, but they've got the credentials, the knowledge, and the experience to back it up. So
yeah, and you know what? Mom wants to enjoy her life. So let's get through this part with the hustle and the grind so that we can get to the Helen Mirren bikini body on the yacht in the Mediterranean. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah. And real estate is one of those beautiful careers where swiftness does work. You know what I mean? If you want more of your career now, you can have it. It's about how big of a piece of the pie you can fit in your mouth right now.
Exactly.
Right?
And like back then, not like I was a realtor in the 80s and 90s, right? But it's like in 2016, technological advances and like conveniences and everything have drastically changed even in the past 5 years. But in 2016, like at least here in DFW, we were carrying around little beepers that we had to open doors with. That if they got too hot or too cold, you couldn't open a door. And it's things like that I was like, is this going to be forever? But sometimes you just have to go with the flow and understand, like, things are always going to be improving and there's always going to be new advances. But your speed should remain number one no matter what. And I would say the second best thing that has ever happened for my career and my life was learning scripts and the disc profile. 100%, because now I feel like I'm able to not only talk to somebody where they are in life and how they are, but also how they want to be spoken to. It's like the love languages, right? Talk to somebody how they want to be spoken to, and then just figure out that way to come to a middle ground. And that way you understand both. But yeah, scripts, 100%. A lot of people really balk at the idea of personality tests, but outside of all of these other personality tests and all of these things that are coming, like the DISC profile allowed me to learn how to speak on a different level with my husband before we found the 4 love languages. How to talk to my friends who all work salary positions, how to speak to my family and my clients and other agents. And so now it just comes so naturally. I'm a DI. Obviously, my eye is just off the freaking charts right now. But my D, I don't thrive on small talk. I'm a real get to the point type of person. Like, let's move on to the next topic. And I freaking love it. So what's your next topic, Cody?
Yeah, no, me too. I cannot filler words. I cannot. You can see the eyes that are inside my brain rolling really hard every time there's a filler word. Yeah.
I know. And I haven't seen that
filler.
yet on you, so don't do it while we're on this talk.
Well, that's a good indicator that you don't use a lot of filler words.
Thank you. I love it.
So you've had experience both at KW and at EXP. What drew you to EXP? What was that decision like?
Oh, after I had resigned from that team after 3.5 years, I had worked to be a solo agent. I knew I'd wanted to be a solo agent, but I really didn't know how to do it. And a lot of great people were there. KW was a massively successful foundation build for me, but it was the same people every single day in a brick and mortar office. And virtual to me was like a mind-blowing concept. I love being around people. I love being able to walk into somebody's office and ask for help. And so when the idea of EXP was proposed to me, I thought, like, how am I going to make friends? How am I going to have help on listing agreements and presentations, or if I've got a broker question? And going from a brick and mortar to a virtual was a very strong risk versus reward analysis. And I thought to myself, after I'd spoke to so many people, and so many people had said, just try it. Change doesn't have to be permanent. You can always go back. And the virtual idea really scared me. And now I cannot imagine limiting myself in my business to a brick and mortar office, no matter where it's located. Because now, Cody, I want a business so big that somebody with very specific facets in it that somebody might not have created here in DFW or in Texas. I want a business that is very strong on cultural values and community building, and not just follow up and expired phone calls and script practice every single morning. And with EXP, almost 90,000 agents in 27 different countries, I believe, I'm able to go find what business I want, no matter where it's located. In Texas, I mean, we also have 11 or 12 state brokers here. And with EXP World, I can go into EXP World anytime, get answers that I want. I don't have this written down anywhere. It's something that I'm passionate about and I'm speaking from the heart about, because I had such limiting beliefs before about coming to a virtual world that I was like, where's my community going to come from? Like, how am I going to build this business and build these strong relationships that I thrive on? And ultimately, it was just something that happened because I was very purposeful, but I pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. Like, some people make a change like this, and they're just like, oh, well, I haven't made any friends, or I don't know who to call, and I've been here for a year and a half. But the information's out there, the connectability's out there, and it's not hard to find. But if you do the work, it will work. And that's
you just have to ask. Yeah,
you have to ask. And there's a million different people to help you, but I would never consider myself going backwards into that mentality. And every brokerage will work for every single different person. That, when I look back, I was like, wow, I was so limited. And I think to myself, where would I be today if I would have come to EXP 3 years, 4 years, 5 years sooner? Or if I would have started with EXP? And I'm grateful for my time there. but this is something that I deeply feel in my soul and has ultimately changed my life and my family's life and created more financial freedom, more life and business freedom for us, but keeps us motivated 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I wake up and go to sleep thinking about real estate, how I can change more lives, how I can get more sales, how I can impact people with a really designated purpose.
Yeah. I think, I'm often stricken by the power of our workplace messenger. To be honest,
100%.
I mean, it's the fact of the matter that this thing is filled with people from all over the world who have different perspectives and backgrounds and are the keys to all of the answers that I need in my job. It's
I
such
know.
a powerful tool. You can't, I mean, I used to really, really thrive working in an office setting. I used to manage a bunch of teams at a corporate banking deal, sat in a big cubicle on the end with a whole line of cubicles that were all my employees, and I could go check on them, talk to them. It made running a team amazing.
Right.
But if I needed something from outside of my team,
Who
good luck.
knows?
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Who knows how
Yeah.
long it would take? And
Good luck.
that's something that like really, and this term is funny, but like grinds my gears, right? It's like people have such limiting beliefs in life. And it's just interesting to me that why not try it? And change doesn't have to be permanent. Do a risk versus reward analysis on this. But
Mhm.
you can always go back.
You can always go
And,
back. Yeah.
and something really unique that the EXP one resource groups have taught me and the connections that I have, and it makes me emotional because I am a very privileged person. I haven't always understood where different walks of life come from or taken the time to understand where different walks of life come from until a few years ago.
Mhm.
And being plugged in with one EXP allowed me to learn all of these different stories, learn all of these different holidays and about all of these different religions and backgrounds that in YP specifically, we've got some of our international leaders that live in India. And we've got other YP state leaders, specifically Vivek, that lives in San Francisco, who taught me about Diwali and how I could best serve my Indian clients. And that's just one example that I'm not going to get from an office, a brick and mortar of 100 of the same people every single day. This has opened my mind to what's out there compared to just what the media tells you, compared just to what social media tells you. It's something that has really allowed me to serve my clients at the highest level, but also really diversify and see how I can find people that want to work with me, but I also want to learn more about their backgrounds and their lives and their structures and their ways of doing things. That way we can find properties that fit them. That way they can have a life worth living and a life worth celebrating. And I can be a critical part of that. And that's what I love about the diversity of it and the inclusivity
really
of it.
Your life to such a degree too, right? Like
Amen.
you walk away with knowledge that you would not have got if you stayed in your bubble.
No.
And and some of us listen, I happen to be someone who lives in a perfectly lovely bubble of people. People, I've cultivated this community of people who really love me and respect me, and we think relatively the same. We're on the same mind on a lot of things. But being at EXP, I am constantly inundated with people who are wildly different than me. People who, on paper, probably the media would say we should disagree on every point that we make.
Right.
But being able to learn more about these people, where they're coming from, what drives them, what their purpose in life is, all like that stuff you cannot put a price on. It really expands your worldview in a way that makes you such a more effective and compassionate leader. And I think that's what all of us strive to be.
I agree. And the resource groups are very purposeful in that because they all come from a place of contribution and a place of education and knowledge. And so while I am a member of so many different resource groups, I might not be on the board and doing all of these things, but being able to sit in a position and be able to watch and educate myself from the information that they put out there, it changes my life. I have learned more about the Black network for the resource groups, EXP Latino, the South Asian network. I mean, even the Climate Action Network. Like, I'm not a tree hugger necessarily, but when you go through, it's the education that has really set me apart and like really helped me and work to understand, like, man, okay, this is stuff that I can take and implement into my life and just overall be a better human being and serve other people at the highest level.
The Climate Action Network is a great example, because even if you disagree fundamentally, there is value in knowing how to sell houses in the green niche.
Thank you.
Period. Monetary dollars and cents, right? It's like that with all of our resource groups.
I know.
You could disagree with somebody of any background, but if you know how to sell to that community, that makes you money. And I actually believe that if you learn enough to sell inclusively to those people, you start to understand them better, and then you're not so different.
And Cameron Cisneros is somebody who has taught me that at a really, really high level.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Anthony Ball. Like, these two people, and you, Cody, like, the three of you together have such different backgrounds and such different beliefs. And that's what I love about, and we'll just talk about the Pride Network. Like, that's what I love about this network specifically, is because I'm learning so much, but there's so many different like nuances to how I can tie these into my bubbles and things like that. But like, Cameron Cisneros is somebody that when I first met in person, it was just like a light bulb went off, and the energy and the joy that radiates and the knowledge and everything that they provided to me was something that, just brought such value to my life and such joy to my life, to be able to understand somebody different than who I am.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful to point out that our communities are so diverse. Even when you look at a community that you would think has a lot in common, you say, "Oh, military network, those people are of the same mind."
Right? No.
Big diverse group. Everybody is diverse, right? It's the same thing with the Pride Network. It speaks to intersectionality, which is something that I teach a lot about, knowing every aspect of your personality and how those aspects interact with each other to create either more struggle for you or more privilege for you. I mean, it's a way to look at another person and say, just because we have one thing in common, we're so different in other ways. Look at the difference between me and Mark Anthony, for example.
Yeah.
We are very different people.
Yes.
We have one thing in common.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sure we have more if we dug in. I haven't had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Mark Anthony. Unfortunately, I'm hoping to remedy that this year.
Yes.
But I mean, he was in the military.
Right.
He comes from a different cultural background than I do. He comes from another area of the country. I mean, we dig deeper into stuff that we've been through, and it makes it really clear that people are way more different than we give them credit for. It's not, I mean, I see people all the time that say to me, "Oh, well, you're a white guy, so you must believe this way."
Right.
Throw that out the window.
I know.
I think even the ones who do agree with the majority of white guys, would balk at being said to them, "You think like every other white guy."
But it created I hate using the term safe space. It created a comfortable space for our resource groups, for people to find their people and find their tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe and things like that. But like, find their communities, and that way we can explain all of our differences. Even as the vice chair for the Women's Impact Network, it's like, we're all so very different on the board and with our members. With YP, we're all so different on the board and with our members. And it's so intriguing, but it's never the same thing every single day. It's never the same conversation. It's never the same class. It's never the same issue. And that's what
you got people coming from all over the place in those groups, right? That's really what it comes down to. And when people are looking for what resource group do I join, I tell people you should join two at least.
Right.
One is something that aligns with you deeply and personally, and one is a group that you want to do better for, right?
Love that.
If somebody looks and they see all this stuff, Black Lives Matter and all that
Right.
on the news, and they're like, I don't understand. Go join BEN. This is
Go
your
find out about it. Right. Exactly.
we can help you with that. We can help you understand better,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, you live in a community. I have had realtors, gay realtors, who live in communities where it's almost exclusively military,
Mhm.
and they just don't understand those people and their walk of life. I'm telling you, go join the military network. You're going to be able to effectively sell to these people, which is going to make you understand these people, which is going to make you an ally of these people, which is going to make you a better person.
And not everybody has that, Cody. Like, that's
Right.
why I'm so passionate about 1EXP and our resource groups. This is what's missing for so many different companies, so many different organizations, is building out pathways for people to be able to walk down and learn more about, but ultimately find people in their community and their title that might be different, but have some of the same beliefs. That's like you were talking about, the intersectionality. It's just, I don't know. It's something that I pray deeply that will continue to develop as we go on in life and see more people pick up. But specifically speaking about the real estate industry, I think it's a missed target by so many companies. And that's why EXP is built different, because we built different programs for our agents and our staff, really our staff too. Having an agent and staff, our agent and staff tied together is something that's so important, specifically.
Yeah. So I've got a few questions left to ask, and we're running out of time. So I'm going to hit you with some rapid fires really quick. You've won a bunch of awards, 1EXP awards. You're taking on leadership roles, Texas State Leader for EXP Young Professionals, Vice Chair of Women's Impact Network. What does it mean to you to be in a position to mentor and support others in the industry that are younger in their career than you are?
That I've earned it and it wasn't given to me.
Mm.
That I worked hard to make this happen, and I wasn't just given a title because I raised my hand to the highest.
You know what I'm doing right now? If you ever see me do this on an episode, I like mirror affirmations, and I earned this.
Yes.
Is a good one.
Thank you. Yeah. And I firmly believe that. Like, a lot of places just hand out titles, and a lot of people thrive with titles, but I firmly believe that I've earned my titles and I've earned my awards and I've earned where I'm at today.
Couldn't agree more. All right, we're in Women's History Month. It's a great time to reflect on the contributions of women, period. Right. So I would like you to reflect a little bit. Who are some of the women, inside or outside of real estate, either you know personally or you don't, that inspired you the most?
One, I do want to say my mother, because my mother was somebody that was married her entire life, gave birth to 3 children, and did not have a lot of friends. She did not have a community around her. It makes me emotional because I think about the women that go through this on a daily basis now that I'm 35. But she didn't have a strong community around her. She was really alone. And imagine being alone, raising 3 children with a husband that worked all of the time, and you don't have a community. That is also why another pivotal point in my life, I think that I work so strongly to build community around myself and around others, because people need people. And when I lost her in 2014, it was something that just came to fruition for me to say, hey, like, how can I connect people and bring people into my life and be a gravity to attract people? Honestly, the second one I would say right off the bat would be Go-Go Bethke. It sounds like such a cliche name because her name is everywhere. Everybody knows who she is, what she does.
Reason for that. Yeah.
The thing is that Go-Go walks with purpose. She operates with purpose. She's married. She's got 2 fabulous sons, but she's always giving, and she operates from a giving mentality through everything that she does. And that's how she's got to the level of success that she's at today. But she radiates joy, and she came to the US with $200 in her pockets. And it is just something that I really look up to her, because as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a business owner, as a freaking hustler, like she's a baller. That's somebody who I want to be like. And I'm very purposeful about choosing who I want to be like.
Yeah. And that, I think one of the key things that always strikes me about Gogo is she's not alone in being a power woman broker who has done it and been there. But where she does sort of stand alone is in approachability.
Right.
And that's something that I really have always taken. I see her walk through a con and I'm like, when I see somebody that's like, ooh, they inspire me, I'm pointing out to the people around me, ooh, look over there, that's Glenn. Ooh, look over there, that's Lauren. Ooh, that's Gogo. And you never see Gogo not talking to somebody or shaking a hand.
Cody, she didn't have a front tooth for 8 months. When I heard that story, she was like, oh yeah, I was all over social media still. I was still selling houses or agent attraction and like in the public eye. And she's like, I didn't have a freaking front tooth for 8 months. I've never forgot that story, but baby, that's approachability. You can't get any higher of a level of approachability
you can still
than
come
that.
talk to me if I don't have a tooth in my head. I would not be in the same position.
I would be gone and buried.
Camera, yeah. That's brilliant. So we close every episode of CultureCast with the same question for everybody. And I know you've got a good answer to this because this is something that you experience a lot. If somebody's first day at eXp Realty was today and they came to you and said, hit me, what's your best advice? What do you tell them?
Let's get on a Zoom and discuss what you want in life and where you want to be 12 months from now, because my number one thing is that I want people in my life to be 12 months down the line and look back and not be the exact same person. I want you to be a totally different person 12 months from now. I want you to be able to take the risk, see the rewards, find your community, build the business that you want, have the life you want, the wealth, the financials, the family. So let's discuss what you want in life and let me be a serial connector and see who I can connect you to be able to get you there.
That's a deeply personal answer. I love that. I mean, wow. Yeah. I love that. That's fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad we were finally able to have you on. And, like I think you are at such a powerful, wonderful moment of your career and your life right now. And I think this is going to be something that you and I both look back on and say, like, remember, this
Amen.
is, things are only going to get better for the pair of us, I think. And
you are the person made for the job, Cody. If this was done any other way or with any other personality, you're just such a natural storyteller and encourager. And so it's a blessing to all of us that have the opportunity to be on this with you, because if it were anybody else, I just don't think the execution would be the same.
That's, I tell everybody all the time, I'm aware of my superpower, and it's signal boosting, right? If you've got a great story, if you've got a great way of doing things, I'm gonna go and scream from the mountains.
Right, exactly. That's what you do.
Lauren!
Yes, you're the one that speaks names in rooms, that speaks positivity about people that aren't in the same room, and that's what I love about you.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. All right, everybody, this has been a great episode, and we will see you next time. I hope that you have enjoyed this, and thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of One EXP CultureCast. If you would like to be featured on an upcoming episode or have someone in mind that you'd like us to invite, please contact us at dei@exprealty.net. If you have time, please be sure to scan the QR code on screen now to leave us a review on Glassdoor. See you next time.